to talk to the troops, to talk about domestic policy, and to slam the Democrats. Hardly the place, first of all, hardly the place. He had a lot of pressure saying he hadn't gone anywhere.
This trip has been in the there when a president has visited a war zone, and he has said that they're jazzed, and they certainly were.
Right.
I have a nephew in the military, and I asked him last night, what would you feel like if a president came? And he says the number one feeling is they're grateful that the president hasn't forgotten them. It shines a light on them to people across not just our country, but across the world, and what our troops are doing. I think it was important for him to be there. I'm glad the First Lady was able to attend as well. It was important for him, in my view, to stress to them those that he was meeting with there in Iraq, that the mission there will continue, and in some ways probably amplify. But this was exactly what needed to be done. It was a good opportunity for them to well done.
Yes, he did, and now he's pulling them out of Syria, and everyone in Europe and the Middle East says if we go, that what will happen is Russia will influence the area more than we will, and they worry about Russian hegemony. So, yes, kudos to him for going, absolutely, Alice, I agree with you 1,000%. But at the end of the day, if you put it in the larger context of what's going on, it does seem disingenuous, and it does seem like there's that we've left a lot of work undone, and that we're walking away from.
To resign over the troop pull from Syria, and I believe it was General Hartling who said this to me before. These trips are as much for the president as they are for the troops. And that I don't mean in terms of political gain. I mean so that the leader understands the challenges and the hardships facing the troops overseas. And we can only hope that it had an impact on this president, seeing them there, seeing the sacrifices they make, seeing them so far away from home during the holiday season. On the policy, General, it was interesting because I don't think anyone has thought that the United States was about to pull U.S. troops out of Iraq, but the president went out of his way to say that's not going to happen. U.S. troops will remain in Iraq even as they are removed from Syria, and he suggested that the troops in Iraq could be used to help in Syria if necessary. Is that practical in your mind?
Yeah, well, from the standpoint of a guy who spent over 3 years of my life in that country, that could be problematic, John. In November, actually, the Iraqi parliament, with a new president, with a new prime minister, took on a vote, should we ask America to leave? And it barely did not pass. So in other words, they're allowing us to stay. The president then said yesterday, hey, we're going to use Iraq as a base to attack into Syria. That's problematic to a degree. Anyone that's worked with other governments know they don't like to use their sovereign soil for basing of the United States when they attack into other countries. This could be problematic, and having the President of the United States come in and say, hey, we're going to base attacks into Syria from here, and it may be more energized than ever before, that's problematic unless you've talked to the Iraqi government, and I'm not sure that's taken place yet.
I have a question for you, General. Do you think that the president is aware of that, or that he lost some of that institutional knowledge when Mattis left his administration?
Yeah, I can't talk to that, Brian. I'm sure that's probably not one of the things that the force have already. He was at a base, Al-Assad Air Base, which is not only used by the U.S., but it's also used by Iraqi forces and several other coalition partners. It would have been kind for the president to perhaps say some things about the coalition, and most of the coalition members are part of the NATO alliance. So that becomes problematic as well, and as we all know, there are 79 countries fighting in Syria. The U.S. has been leading, either formally or informally, that alliance. That becomes problematic when we make a unilateral announcement to withdraw without coordination with other governments that are part of that fight. And I know for a fact that some of them are confused about the way forward because they've talked to me about it.
I think it's important also to note there's been a lot of concerns and criticism about the president's decision to withdraw from Syria and make plans to do so in Afghanistan. And I share those concerns with the method that he's going about doing it. But that being said, he campaigned on looking at overall at our military presence around the world and continuing to stay in open-ended warfare situations. And this is something that he campaigned on. And I would like to think with the General Mattis being gone, someone will step in and help advise him on some of these issues that he campaigned, and a lot of people voted for him on how he's going to his worldview with regard to these national policy issues. That is something I'd like to think this trip to the combat zone gave him a new light and some new perspective on some of the recent decisions that he has made in that regard, and maybe we'll see some changes with that regard, but I can't see anything other than a positive with this trip to the combat zone.
Certainly the conversation about staying or leaving in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, those are all things that should be debated and should, in my view, should go through a process. But the announcement is sort of the spontaneous announcement without any process, without notification of coalition, without, by the way, also establishing a new strategy. What is the desired end state? That's where it becomes problematic. We can debate whether or not we should be in northern Syria or not, and then have a process for getting out. But to announce it simultaneously, or
today. The big question, of course, is can they get a deal done to end the government shutdown? The president also had some comments on that during his stop in Iraq. We'll discuss next.
'Twas the holiday season, and in your garage, a brand new John Deere. That's not a mirage. With 60 months financing at 0%, say happy holidays to money well spent. If additional offers are what you desire, visit your John Deere dealer before they expire. Now start up your engines and drive out of sight. New John Deere equipment for all, and to all.
Sananka.
Come on, baby. Just say hello. Just say hello.
GAC Motor.
I'm Andy, and I lost 30 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Listen up, guys.